Hello, I am Alemitu Bezabih, and I'm presenting my work on the challenges and opportunities for interactive technology to support parents of HIV-positive children in Ethiopia in the disclosure process. This work has been done in collaboration with my co-authors. Majority of children and adolescents living with HIV in sub-Saharan Africa acquire it during pregnancy or infancy. Thanks to advancements in HIV medications, HIV is no longer fatal for children as it is now manageable. However, as they enter into adolescence, HIV management becomes challenging and hence adolescents experience very poor health outcomes. There are several challenges that contribute to this, but the dominant one is lack of HIV status disclosure, meaning that children and adolescents remain unaware of their HIV status despite being enrolled for treatment since long time. Early awareness of their HIV-positive status helps children and adolescents build proper attitude, knowledge, and capability to manage HIV. However, telling children they have HIV can be challenging for parents. Most notably, parents fear HIV stigma and are reluctant to disclose children, often postponing it for indefinite time in future. Again, parents view disclosure as a one-off event instead of a process that can happen for longer period. Prior work on interactive systems that support HIV status disclosure exclusively understood it as self-disclosure to others and focused on adults, mainly disclosing in a social media context. Supporting parents in disclosing their children's illness status is rarely reflected in currently available systems. In the SIGCHI community, prior research exists on parent-child illness management, presenting support for health monitoring that is shared between parents and children. However, little is known regarding the challenge that parents encounter when communicating health-related information to children, especially in sensitive health conditions like HIV. Here, we see interactive technology holds the potential to scaffold and guide parents through continuous disclosure of their children's HIV status. Inspired by this potential, this work aims to explore disclosure and non-disclosure experiences and how technology can guide parents throughout the process to encourage faster disclosure. Hence, we aim to answer two research questions. How is HIV status disclosure to children living in Ethiopia managed by parents, and to what extent can technology support this process? How do parents perceive an interactive story-based system that aims to support parents in the process of HIV status disclosure to children? In the first phase, we explored lived experiences on non-disclosure and disclosure involving 13 participants, including parents, nurses, and disclosed and non-disclosed adolescents. To facilitate discussion, dyadic parent-child persona and scenarios of parent-child discussions on HIV that represent possible question and answer interactions between a child and a parent were presented. The scenarios were informed by previous work. In the second session of the discussion, a conceptual design of technology imagined to playfully engage parents and children in a shared experience to support open discussion on HIV was presented. The storyboards demonstrating two possible use contexts were created. The first scenario was a system that could be borrowed from the clinic for home use, whereas the second scenario assumes that children and parents are invited to engage with the system during appointment visits. Using thematic analysis, 3 themes were crafted from the data. Our data showed non-disclosed children struggle with a feeling of being different and forming an identity as being discriminatory unique over the years because of their apparent illness and the lack of disclosure. Our findings indicate parents' fear of disclosure and poor HIV communication with children, leaving their questions unanswered and leaving space for speculation, which often ends with accidental disclosure. For example, discovering their HIV status by Googling medications or cross-checking with TV shows. Finally, data also suggested the need to design technology for disclosure that parents cannot easily ignore, for instance, considering using a scenario at the hospital for better attention. Considering our findings on parental fear and inspired by recent considerations for trauma-informed work in HCI, we decided to design a virtual disclosure experience exclusively for parents, simulating parent-child dialogues on HIV. Considering the sensitivity of HIV context, we decided to first provide a safe space for parents to reflect on their perspectives on disclosure. We also introduced disclosure as a process that should happen since early childhood, continuing until children take full responsibility and understanding to manage HIV. To start from the safest point, our design focused on partial disclosure, training parents on providing evidence-based information on HIV for younger children, mapped with children's illness understanding capability, but only implicitly without naming HIV. Based on these design insights from Study 1 and elsewhere, we design and develop an experience prototype. A child avatar presents several questions, and the player in the role of a mother chooses appropriate replies from predefined answers, which include stories explaining themes on HIV. The design prototype was evaluated with 6 parents through hand-on experience, followed by semi-structured interviews. Through phenomenological interpretative analysis, 5 themes were created from data. First, parents perceived that the app provided right words to deal with challenging questions children pose concerning their condition. Especially, they found relatable stories as soft or diplomatic ways of discussing HIV than direct to medicalized explanation. Second, the app helped parents to reconsider their disclosure plan as one-time event in the future. Third, participants suggested the need to support parents addressing HIV-related trauma and stigmatic experiences that they themselves face, in addition to supporting on how to disclose to children. Fourth, parents suggested combating internalized as well as public stigma by targeting children with or without HIV, especially by translating the stories into interactive digital experiences such as animations, cartoons, films, or games. Fifth, parents explained that even with simple interaction methods, technology use can still be difficult for users with low educational and digital background. By focusing on parents and asking them to engage with partial disclosure through an interactive storytelling experience, we found that such systems have potential to transform how parents think about disclosure. The way the prototype presented disclosure offered parents a safe space to explore communication about HIV and triggered reflection. However, whether and how prior virtual disclosure experience can facilitate disclosure to a human requires further research. Our findings show that disclosure is not only challenging because of stigma and traumatic experiences, but also because it's a complex process that needs to be structured and continuously managed. Here, there is potential in technology that can help parents or disclosures of sensitive information in general navigate the disclosure process, allowing them to establish structures that facilitate disclosure and enabling them to provide the right information at the right time. Our work shows that technology to support disclosure needs to be approached with care, not just because disclosure can be emotionally difficult for children, but also because of the individual experiences that parents bring into the process. Here, our work highlights the personal struggles that traumatic experiences parents face in the context of HIV. In our work, parents and healthcare workers were enthusiastic about the potential of interactive technology to support disclosure. While this is important for technology adoption, we highlight that in our specific setting, such systems need to be designed and integrated with care. Designers bear responsibility to ensure that technology supports rather than carries out disclosure.